Hello everybody, welcome to the Mild Rumpus, coming at you live from the House of Flimsy, my dilapidated one-bedroom apartment here in New York City that is filled with books and noise. Today I will be taking on the reader profile tag. I think this is going to turn out to be a pretty good tag. I was intimidated by the questions when I first saw it, but I put a little thought into it. I did a little preparation, and I think it's going to turn out halfway decent. So first of all, thank you to Melinda from A Web of Stories who tagged me in this tag. It was originally created by Hillary B. Green at Book Bustle, so check that video out. And yeah, let's get going. So the first question is, what for you makes a good book? What I'm coming to realize since I started this channel is that I am really drawn to books that are plot driven, while at the same time, I love a great character study. I'm a Gemini. There's got to be enough stuff going on in your story to keep me engaged and interested. Having said that, I also really enjoy getting lost in the psyche of a character. If an author has created a really complex, complicated character, I just eat that up. As someone who has studied theater for years and years and years, there's nothing more that I enjoy than doing like a character analysis and really kind of like setting up camp for, a couple of days. When it comes to the actual writing, of course you want a book that's well written and well edited. At the same time, I don't have the attention span for authors that get very elaborate in their prose and their descriptions. I have ADHD, so if you're describing something for more than a couple of sentences, I'm going to forget what you're describing. I also tend to go for extremes. If I want to read a sad book, I want to read the saddest book. If I want to read a frightening book, I want to read the most disturbing, frightening thing out there, right? I don't know. I think it's just because I'm Gen X that I want to be challenged. I want to be offended. Like, come at me, I think for me as a reader, I've always tended to seek out books from voices other than my own. I think that's the only way that you can really sort of expand your worldview is by hearing stories from perspectives that are unfamiliar. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love living here in New York so much. You have every color, every creed, every walk of life, everything that society has somehow decided divides and separates us. But if you listen to each other's stories, I think that you'll find that you have a lot more in common than you might expect. Even the things that you might not necessarily agree on, it'll push your way of thinking to where you go, I haven't thought of that, or I haven't thought of that in this way. And that's how you grow as a person. That's what excites me, not only as a reader, but as a person. And I think that develops empathy. And in my opinion, that's what's really lacking in today's society. So yeah, I try to avoid the echo chamber when it comes to selecting books. And I think if you look at my shelves, you'll find a wide variety of voices and interest and genres. I just want to gobble it all up, basically. Number 2, what are you currently reading? Right now, I'm sort of between books. I just finished reading Michael Cunningham's latest novel, Day, and I was going to focus primarily on recent releases. That was the plan, but there was a book I read in March called The Glutton by A.K. Blakemore, and it has quickly become a favorite. And I picked up her first book, The Manningtree Witches, the other day, and I started reading the first chapter, and then I started reading the second chapter, and then the third, and then I was like, well, I guess we're reading The Manningtree Witches. This is not what I was planning on reading, but it was calling to me, so I guess now is their time. Number 3, what's the last book you didn't finish and why? As a general rule, I do not DNF books. As of today, I have never not finished reading a book that I started. There is a book series that has been on an indefinite pause, so I guess I'll use that for this answer. I've been reading Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. I am currently on the 5th book, but it's been almost 2 years since I read The Shadow Rising. And I do want to finish it, but it's not even because I'm necessarily like loving it. It's more a task of endurance. I want to be able to say, yes, I read The Wheel of Time, all 11,898 pages of it. I don't know how long it's going to take me to do that, but it's good to have goals. Number 4, what obscure book do you wish other people would read? So there was this psychoanalyst by the name of Wilhelm Reich, and he was a nut job. I'll give you that. He was kooky in his thinking, but he was also very much ahead of his time. A lot of the kind of sex-positive ideology that we have today is in large part because of his work. His book, Character Analysis, is still widely studied when it comes to psychoanalytics, and Sigmund Freud thought that he was one of the most brilliant people that he had ever worked with during his time in Vienna in the 1920s. But basically, his big idea was that we have sexual life energy that can be channeled and can help aid in curing physical and mental illness, and can also have effects on the universe. He called this energy Orgonon energy, and he created a machine that he believed could do cloud busting. You could shoot that energy into the sky and cause it to rain. He also thought that you could use that energy to ward off alien invaders. That's what we're dealing with. If you're a Kate Bush fan, the song Cloud Busting is inspired by this machine in his life, as is Birdland by Patti Smith. The other thing he's known for is the Orgonon energy accumulator. Basically, it was just this wooden box that you would sit in, and eventually you would achieve some sort of orgasmic energy. And he thought that this would be used as a weapon against fascism, and it could cure cancer and schizophrenia. And a lot of people bought into it. William Burroughs had an accumulator in his bunker, and he would sit in it daily. And then Woody Allen even parodies it in the movie Sleeper. In the movie, it's called the Orgasmatron. Only problem is he was practicing without a license, so the FBI raided his house. They found communism literature. They arrested him, put him in prison. When he got out of the slammer, he decided to buy something like 200 acres, I think, in Arizona, where he and his followers would continue to study Orgonon energy. It became very cult-like, and he kind of became obsessed with radiation and aliens, and eventually the FDA started looking into his claims, and they thought that it was fraudulent and sexually exploitive. And so they shut it down. He had to destroy all of the accumulators. They burned over 200 copies of his books, and he was sent to prison where he would eventually die. During all this, he had a son, a 13-year-old kid who was, growing up on this Orgonon mega center, and he wrote a memoir called A Book of Dreams. And it's one of my favorite books. It's one of the few books that I've given 5 stars, and it's a tribute to his father. It's about his bizarre upbringing and coming to terms with his father's death, and also kind of reconciling what he was taught by his father versus the reality that he kind of knew once he left that environment. But let me read the flap real quick, and I'll tell you what they say. In this brave and moving book, the young son of Wilhelm Reich, the brilliant and controversial psychoanalyst and theorist, whose books and laboratory apparatus were destroyed by the FDA in the 50s, probes with great depth and insight into the relationship with his extraordinary father and himself. When Reich died in 1957, Peter was 13. Although it took him several years to recover from the death, it took many more, another 13, to emerge from the overwhelming influence of his father's life and death to find his own identity in the process. The book moves in a series of images like a movie, between past and present, dream and reality. As the images interweave, layer after layer of defenses and fears and uncertainties is stripped away until Peter is finally able to see both himself and his father with clear eyes and an open heart. And I'm lucky enough to have an inscribed copy from 1973. Read it, and I hope you love it as much as I do. Number 5, what's the longest book you've ever read? Now this one surprised me. I thought it was going to be Middlemarch, because Middlemarch felt like the longest book I've ever read, but it turns out it's actually Stephen King's The Stand, coming in at a whopping 1,153 pages. Number 6, if you could have a dinner party with 5 fictional characters, who would they be? So I am really terrible at questions like this, dealing with fictional characters. I don't know why, but I do struggle with them. But I think for this particular question, I'm going to go with characters from The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So just imagine we're at dinner, we're all seated at a table, and you look around the room and you see, oh, there's death and dream, there's delirium, despair, and desire. Now, I think that combo would make for some interesting conversations, don't you? Number 7, 5 books you'd want if stranded on a desert island. If I was stranded on a desert island, Dave Canterbury would become my new favorite author and BFF. I would bring his Bushcraft 101, a field guide to the art of wilderness survival. I would bring the Bushcraft field guide to trapping, gathering, and cooking in the wild. I would bring Bushcraft First Aid, a field guide to wilderness emergency care. I would bring the illustrated Bushcraft, because at least then I would have something pretty to look at, and maybe if I'm lucky there might be a boob or something. And then I would find the largest dictionary with the thinnest pages, because you never know. You just never know when you're going to need kindling or toilet paper. Hate to go there, but it might be useful. Number 8, 1 book you could not put down. This is a recent read for me, and it's one that I read right as I was starting this channel, but it's a book that really cemented my love of Cormac McCarthy's writing. It's a book that I avoided reading for a while because I had seen the movie, and all of the editions that I came across were paperbacks with movie tie-in covers, and I don't know, for some reason, it just turned me off to reading it, but I finally picked it up, and I'm so glad that I did, because it was incredible, and that's No Country for Old Men. This book starts off like gangbusters, and it does not let up from start to finish. I was completely captivated. I think that you will also have a hard time putting this book down. And if there is one thing that McCarthy is great at, it is writing a terrifying villain. Terrifying. Number 9, 5 books or authors you will never read. Never say never. I think the only books that maybe I would steer clear of are books written by politicians whose views are in opposition to my own core beliefs and values. But even then, I think it's really important that you know who your enemies are, know what they're scheming. What are they plotting? What are they planning? What are they pushing out to the masses? Now, I'm not going to buy your book, and that's why public libraries are so important, I might research online and find out what your talking points are. But yeah, I think even then there's some value in at least checking it out somehow. Like, what are they up to? What you doing? Number 10, if you were to write a book, what would it be about? I think one of the main reasons I love reading so much is because I cannot even begin to fathom how a person is able to create this world and this movie in your mind that is so believable using nothing but words. Like, I don't have that skill set. I wish that I did. And I'm blown away by people that are masters of it. And I think if I were to write a book, it would probably be some sort of like collection of essays or some sort of book on like tapping into creativity. It would have to be something abstract. I don't think that I could just sit down and hammer out a novel. I don't think that's something that I could do. I would love to, and I have so much respect for those that can. So if you are an author, if you are a writer, high five. You're an amazing human being, and thank you. All right, that's it. That's all the questions. It's time to do the tags. If you're watching this video, if you found the questions thought-provoking, tag you are it. If you don't have a channel, just tell me your answers in the comments. That's fine. While you're doing that, you can also feed that algorithm. Do all the things, hit the like button, subscribe. I don't understand the algorithm. I know that I've somehow upset it in the past few days because things have slowed down significantly on the channel. I don't really understand that. So if you like what you see and you haven't done so already, seriously, do please hit subscribe. It's free to do. And if you have buyer's remorse, you can always unsubscribe. But I do have some really great content coming up. Tomorrow is going to be the New York International Antiquarian Book Fair video. Amazing event. If you love books, if you have any sort of interest in book collecting, book your appointment today. It's something you have to visit at least once in your life. It was unbelievable. There was a great panel discussion with Patty Smith, the curator of the Morgan Library, a bookseller from France who specializes in manuscripts and signatures, and then a person who restores and binds books. It was fascinating. It was a really good conversation. And then the show itself had over 200 book vendors from around the world. It's amazing. And then last night, I went to the town hall event thrown by Simon & Schuster, who were celebrating their 100 years in publishing. And there were over 30 of their best-selling authors, and people that included everyone from Judy Blume. Oh, I got to meet her. Judy Blume, Hillary Clinton, Jerry Seinfeld, John Irving, Frederick Bachman, Ruth Ware, Bob Woodward, what's his name? Walter Isaacson. It goes on and on and on. Jesmond Ward was there. It was an amazing event. I had front row seats, and I have the entire thing filmed, so I'll be sharing highlights from that over the course of the next few weeks. So if any of that sounds interesting, you know what to do, and please spread the word. I would like to tag everyone who's watching: Steve Donahue, Joe Spivey, The Nerdy Narrative, Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, Cliff's Dark Gems, McKenna Loves Content, KK, Alex the Story Girl, Catherine, and Re-Education of the Mind. I don't know if you do tag videos on that channel, but if you do, I would love to see what you come up with. And have a great week. Be sure you check out that video tomorrow. I think you're gonna love it. I'm still kind of floating on a cloud. It's been an amazing couple of days. So look for that video, and I'll see you at the end of the week with the wrap-up video. And until then, happy reading. Thanks for watching.